Good afternoon and welcome to AM News Network presents Summary Judgment. I'm Rachel Baird, joined by Ed Peruta. We're transmitting live from the American News Media Center here in Central Connecticut. Ed's my legal investigator. I'm an attorney, but you're also president of American News and Information Services.
And right now I'm undercover.
Okay. So you made a list of things to discuss today. There's
a
a federal case out of Texas about moratorium on evictions that I want to get to at some point.
I got to get this right here. I have said since it was implemented, who the hell does the government think they are to say to a tenant, you don't have to pay your rent? Because if it was for everybody, it would be, in my opinion, fair. Then the government could pay all of the landlords the rent while the tenants can't pay. Well, in Texas,
a federal district court judge, this is in the Eastern District of Texas, decided on February 25th that the federal moratorium on evictions was unconstitutional because Article 1, the Commerce Clause, was not broad enough to allow the federal government that authority to intervene in the states' rights. However, you may think that it's a good decision, which it is, at least insofar as the position we've taken on this show up to now on these eviction moratoriums. But this judge, Judge Barker in Texas, does say that the states do have broad authority to enact legislation for the public good, what we've often called a police power. So in this case, nobody's arguing that the states have the right to prohibit evictions.
I'm sorry.
The issue is whether the federal government has the authority under the Commerce Clause to intervene in what's going on in the states.
All right, and I'm not trying to be funny. I'm undercover today.
I don't know what you mean.
Let me ask you a question. Because I whenever something happens, I try to run scenarios by the law or the theory to see how it's going to work. So, if a person is living in an apartment, and I'm going to say it's a subsidized apartment, a government housing, federal government housing, and somebody says you don't have to pay your rent, okay? Does that mean that I can put an application in and put no money down and pay nothing to live there until the rent is required?
But you have to be a covered person to qualify for not paying your rent. Okay, you just can't say, I'm not going to pay my rent. You have to qualify as a covered person. That means you have to have used your best efforts to obtain available government assistance for rent or housing. You fall below certain income thresholds, generally $99,000 annually.
What? Say that number again?
$99,000 annually, or $198,000 annually if filing a joint tax return. So that's pretty broad. I think a lot of people might fall under that one.
Wait a minute. So if you make less than $99,000, a single person makes less than $99,000 a year, you may qualify.
Yes, because
but if you make $100,000 a year, you won't.
That's what it sounds like.
But if you're a couple, and you each make $99,000 or $198,000 per year total family income, you may not have to pay the rent.
Yeah, but there's other things too. You're
you're
unable to pay the full rent due. 2, substantial loss of household income, loss of compensable hours of work, or extraordinary out-of-pocket medical expenses. So that's going to be the one where a lot of people don't qualify, because you have to have had a substantial change in circumstances. You have to be using your best efforts to make partial payments, and you have no other available space for occupancy to go to. I mean, if people are held accountable to those standards, it's pretty tough to be a covered person to get rent forgiveness, I think.
Okay, so let's go through it again. 1, what was the first one?
You've
Income.
You've used your best efforts to get government assistance for rent or housing.
I applied for Section 8 housing.
Or you gone to
the
legal
town and say I need to get,
services
well, legal services doesn't offer you rent.
Right,
So
they could help you,
local,
I guess.
county, state, whatever, may have rental units, but I don't think the legal aid has it.
And then the income threshold is next. $99,000.
I make less than $99,000 a year.
Okay, you got a substantial loss of household income, loss of compensable hours of work or wages, a layoff, or extraordinary out-of-pocket.
I'm laid off from work.
Yeah. But you're using your best efforts to make timely partial payments that are as close to the full payment as possible.
Now, do those timely partial payments come before I pay my other bills?
Well, that's the top part.
Or after
Yeah.
I pay my. In other words, I have a car payment, I have an insurance payment, I own a house, or I don't own a house, but I have these bills that I have to pay.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to take it off the top, that's a lot different than do you have enough left over. And 5, you have no other available space for occupancy at the same or less housing cost, and if evicted, would either need to live without housing or move into a congregate or shared living space.
Read that first one. Live in a what?
It says move into a congregate or shared living setting.
Well, there's a whole bunch of people that have a hobo camp down by the river.
I guess everybody has that opportunity.
Yeah, you could live in...
well, no, but it says if that is your only option, then you would qualify under number 5. I think number 3 is the big one. Have you had a loss of income? So just to let you know, it isn't simply a matter of not paying your rent. If you just simply don't pay your rent, but you don't qualify as a covered person, you can still be evicted. Okay. But this case did find that the federal government was overreaching on the Commerce Clause by the CARES Act federal moratorium on evictions.
Is your computer working?
It is.
Okay. Can I ask Master Control to put those topics 1 through 7 on a disc and bring them up here so she can open them up here?
Okay. Do you just want to start talking about 1 through 7? Because
well,
I have a feeling this is going to take a while. It's not going to be that easy to do.
I don't think they're all printed here, but I'll start on some of them, okay?
Number 1, my computer's not hooked up to anything.
I just have to tell you. I have not seen my son Michael or my grandson Maverick Danger.
Well, Michael came up in 2019 for your heart transplant.
When I had my
Maverick
transplant, right. He may have been up one other time to paint, okay? But I didn't, that was after my heart. Okay. But what I'm trying, I think I may have been in the hospital when he was painting. But what I'm trying to say is this, is that the last time I spoke to him was about maybe an hour ago. And they were somewhere between the Maryland house, the Susquehanna River and the Delaware Memorial Bridge. So they are on the way to see us. Mm-hmm. Okay? And
not by boat though, by car, right?
Yeah, my grandson Maverick has never seen snow. He does not like wearing pants. He does not like wearing long sleeve shirts. He's a shorts and t-shirt and flip-flop kid. And so we told him we're going to serve him breakfast on the deck. Okay, every morning he can put his shorts and his flip-flops and his t-shirt on, and he can go out and eat his bagel on the deck. Okay, but they got diverted and they went through Washington D.C. and my grandson saw the Capitol, the White House, the Washington Monument, Department of Commerce, whatever. He saw it. And I'm wondering if when I ask him and he goes up there, did they have a fence up? Okay, so he's coming now. that goes to a topic, and I'll be honest, a lot of these come from Fox News, okay? Capitol Security Review to recommend additional officers and fencing. Now, I said that we now have a green zone in Washington, like Baghdad. And this kind of confirms what I said. It's not the fence is not going away. I don't think it's ever going to come down. Okay? But additional officers. Now, are they going to hire the number of officers to replace one for one the National Guard that was there? I don't know. What's the number of officers, federal officers needed in Washington, D.C. to be prepared for another, this thing is crazy. I'm not used to it. I don't know how women wear wigs, except they have hair underneath it. I don't. Okay. So I don't know how many officers it would take to protect the Capitol of this country.
There's never enough.
Never enough.
Because you can put a whole slew of new officers in, additional officers, and then something's going to happen, because things always happen, and then people will say that's not enough. So you're always going to need more. But it's funny how when they're, and I know I keep bringing this up. For years I've been bringing it up. In Chicago, there can be 794 deaths, shooting deaths, I think.
Yeah.
Or homicides.
Homicides.
794 homicides in 1 year, but nobody in the federal government I can see is that excited about it. But when it comes home to them in Washington, well, no number of officers to protect them is enough, apparently.
No. And the politicians in Washington want anyone who, I guess, was arrested during the quote-unquote January 6th event, okay? They want them kept in jail, no bond.
I know.
They said, no, you keep them there. In other words, we don't want them out.
Meanwhile, murderers
get bond.
Get bond.
Right.
You know, 500,000, 750,000, they get bond.
Right. And during the Black Lives Matter
although there
protest,
I just want to throw in there was a death, at least one death. Was it more than one death during the Capitol riot?
I don't know.
I know there was.
I know an officer lost his life. But what I'm saying is this: there were lives lost in Black Lives Matter also. Okay. Now, in the Black Lives Matter, Kamala Harris was working to raise the bond money to get the people that were arrested out of jail.
Right.
Okay? Now, it's okay. I understand. But, so, Capitol security is under review. All right? Now.
But before you move on, I just want to quote Justice Clarence Thomas about this whole issue of politicians being protected and insulated from the realities of life. And in your case, that you had hoped, or we had all hoped, that the Supreme Court would grant cert on, but they ultimately denied it, Peruta versus California. Justice Thomas and Justice Gorsuch dissented from the denial of cert because they thought that it should be heard, and the issue of whether the Second Amendment guarantees the right to protect yourself in public by carrying a firearm, by carrying a handgun,
that
applies.
You know, I think that the most significant thing that has ever happened in my life was Dr. Hammond reaching his hands into my chest and replacing my heart. I'm here today together with the heart of another individual.
You're very reflective today, too.
And,
You're very reflective today.
Well, what's that mean?
You know, looking at your life.
No, and so I'm sitting here saying that...
Do you want to make the announcement? that your second grandchild?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
They just heard that.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh man. Oh Jesus.
Oh jeez. Did I do something wrong?
Jesus.
Well, you're talking about your son coming up.
And my grandson, Maverick.
Oh.
Okay. So to me it's a significant event. Okay? And I look back and think of significant events. And I have to tell you, the period of time between the election in November and today, if you compress it all down, okay, to me is going to be a significant period or event period in my life.
Why?
Because of the things I'm reading. I mean, the country.
So this is what Justice Thomas said that I think applies to what's going on.
I know. There was one other thing I needed to say before that.
Okay.
I got a heart. That's probably number one. I could sit there and say the day I married my wife, but that's not it. Okay. What is it? Is
well, there were three times.
The day that a Supreme Court Justice of the United States put on paper the words he did regarding my Second Amendment case. In other words, I will forever be grateful to Justice Thomas for making that statement in writing in my case for history to look back upon. My heart is important to me. His words are important to the country. Much bigger than me. The issue of Peruta v. California was much bigger than me.
Absolutely.
Now, I may have printed it out. Indiana.
Well, wait, are we going to read his words?
Read his words.
Okay, so.
All of them.
Well, no, I'm not going to read all of them. That would take too long. So back on June 26, 2017, your petition for cert to the United States Supreme Court was denied on the Second Amendment issue that you had raised in the federal court in San Diego that then went to the Ninth Circuit, where Justice O'Scanlan ruled in your favor, and then Camilla Harris requested en banc because she had been asleep at the wheel and thought you'd never win, so why did she have to pay attention? And then en banc, was it 11 judges of the Ninth Circuit sat and overturned the decision, so
7-4 or something.
So all of a sudden you lost, and then tried to take it up to the Supreme Court, and like in the majority of cases, cert was denied. But on the day that it was denied, Justice Thomas wrote a dissenting opinion, and he began that this will tell you a little bit about what the case was about. The Second Amendment to the Constitution guarantees that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
That's what it says.
At issue in this case, that's your case, Peruta v. California, is whether that guarantee protects the right to carry firearms in public for self-defense, which has not yet been decided by our courts.
Right.
Neither party disputes that the issue is one of national importance or that the courts of appeals have already weighed in extensively. I would therefore grant the petition for a writ of certiorari. And then he concludes, and this goes more to the point of what we were talking about, what's going on in the Capitol right now with everybody, all aflame about protection and more officers. He says, for those of us who work in marbled halls, guarded constantly by a vigilant and dedicated police force, the guarantees of the Second Amendment might seem antiquated and superfluous, but the framers made a clear choice. They reserved to all Americans the right to bear arms for self-defense. I do not think we should stand by idly while a state denies its citizens that right, particularly when their very lives may depend on it. I respectfully dissent.
How do you run away from that? How do you deviate from that? Not one word in his dissent could be changed. Every word that he wrote had meaning to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I am disturbed when I read, and I did, and I know you don't like, when I used to do this regularly, I had one section that was called, I read it in bold print.
Yes.
And all I do is skim down through, I start with CNN.
Go ahead.
And then I go to Fox. But I read it in bold print, and I go, what would be my reaction to this statement?
Wouldn't it be bold, wouldn't it be bold font? You should update your little saying there.
Surge of 13,000 Central American minors to U.S. border expected in May.
M-I-N-O-R-S?
Minors. M-I-N-O-R-S.
Well, there's M-I-N-E-R-S too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, youngsters.
Okay.
Okay? Now, do the 13,000 minors come with an adult, or do they come by themselves? But for anyone to be able to put into bold print, bold font print, well, I'm going to call it, in this country, it's either true or not true. Is it fake news or is it true news?
Or there's a spin put on it.
And why isn't the other side, and I call it the other side of the media, not talking about this? Okay? 13,000 minors could show up on our southern border, and that's just in the month of May.
It seems like they would have aerial photos of this going on, right? I mean, are they in caravans? Are they walking? Are they on trains? How are they getting here?
You know, when I want to say,
who's giving them water? Who's feeding them?
I want to say,
where are they sleeping?
I want to say when Obama was inaugurated, they had a camera, and they showed a picture of a crowd in the background, and then they wanted to show you what the camera was capable of. And you could point to some area of the crowd, zoom, 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 until you were sitting right on their face. I mean, it's like they had the Hubble telescope sitting on top of the Capitol building looking at the crowd. Okay, now, there have been demonstrations in New York, the Million Man March, Million Woman March, whatever it was. They take an aerial satellite photograph and can square it off, and they can roughly estimate how many people are in that square. So when they look down with a satellite at the roads coming north out of Latin America, they can tell how many people are walking.
Mm-hmm.
It's not too hard to do. 4 to 10 abreast, 1,000 deep, 4,000 people.
So when there are articles like that where you could easily suspect that it could be fake news, depending what side you're on or not on, depending where you're at in the spectrum, I guess you could say, why don't they include a picture? Of course, I guess you can't really trust pictures either.
Okay. I'm missing.
I know. Where are your articles? You had more.
I know.
There you go.
Oh. No. Here's what my gut tells me. We are heading towards a socialist I don't even know if you can call it a country. We are heading towards a socialist society, a communist society. And
I don't know about communism.
I don't know how to describe it.
Well,
but my gut's telling me this is not good. This is not good. Now, I would love to be able to spend my whole week compensated to dig up shit that's happening. I don't. But when CNN or Fox News or Associated Press or BBC, when they address a topic, forget about whether they're pro or con to the topic, but when they address a topic, I would assume that there's some validity to why it's being covered. I believe that it's people like you and I and the people behind the camera who have an obligation to continue the discussion, to continue the evaluation of what's said. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it right or is it wrong? You know, that was one of my things.
Well, I mean, the things we're going to hear now during this administration, because the press, the mainstream press, if that's what you want to call it, is totally in bed and on the side of the sitting president and the party that's in control of Congress. So there are a lot of things that we're not going to hear, but that's a foregone conclusion.
I spend a lot of time with an extremely liberal person. And when I talk about how can the President of the United States have a conversation with the King of Saudi Arabia when the prince, his son, is alleged to have killed, cut up, pieced out, and snuck out of the building with little postage stamp-sized pieces of Khashoggi, okay? And they released an edited version of the investigation into the death of this Khashoggi guy. Now, once in a well, Trump didn't do anything. And I come back like this. I don't want to talk about the past. The president now is Joe Biden. What's he going to do to Saudi Arabia for killing Khashoggi?
Well, when did that happen? I mean, that has happened in the past.
It happened during the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. But you keep hands up. Oh, we get oil from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
We have military bases in Saudi Arabia. They buy from our arms complex. Saudis buy weapons from us and spend money with us. Okay? And we have to keep them, close as an ally. Well, fuck, you could have said that about Adolf Hitler.
Well, there's a
what I'm saying is, you can't excuse whether it's one person or 8 million people. Can't excuse it. Biden is excusing it. The current administration is excusing it. Now,
it's called pragmatism, where you do things that are perhaps distasteful because there are things you need or things you rely on in the relationship. It's pragmatism.
I want to hear from Eric Shaw. Mm-hmm. I want to hear from Eric in Long Island.
Well, until we do, why don't we talk about an issue that is probably closer to the lives of most of us, and it regards a phone call that you had this week with a internet carrier, and this whole issue of arbitration that these big companies force you to agree to get their services. So you really never have any recourse. And we ran into this also in the taxing situation, state taxes in Connecticut, where they were charging, where stores, establishments were charging state sales tax where they had no authority under the law to do. Right. They were collecting it and probably giving it to the state. And the state changed the law. It used to be you could sue for that, but now you can only sue for the amount of extra taxes that you paid. And who's going to do that? So it's much like arbitration, where the state wants to keep getting that tax money, even if the retail establishments are charging taxes for things they shouldn't. So they've changed the law to make it impossible to sue anybody for doing that because it's not worth your while. And they've done the same thing in arbitration.
Let me tell you how this goes down. In the mid-2000s, 2007, 2008, I'm traveling back and forth across the country in an RV. And they had this 5G was coming out, or 4G was coming out.
I think it was
4G was coming out.
Maybe.
And so I was with Sprint. Now, Sprint and these internet companies, that provide internet service make this claim that unlimited internet. You get unlimited internet. Well, I want you to picture 2 roads. That's their infrastructure. That's their towers, their systems. One is a 20-lane superhighway like the Autobahn in Europe, where you can go as fast as you want to go. They may have changed it, but you could go as fast as you wanted to go. That's, to me, unlimited. But then you come to Sprint, and I buy the Ferrari of phones. The phone that I have right now is $1,000 phone. Okay? I paid $1,000 for this phone. And
you know, and what I've learned is you can pay 1/10 of that and pretty much get the same thing.
You're absolutely correct. So, I said to Sprint, look, I'm going to be spending a lot of time out in San Diego. Can you tell me when you're going to light up the system for 4G? And they said, oh, September. It's coming, September. So I went ahead and bought the Ferrari of phones. Now, this phone has a different connector than the old phones, which have a different power connector than the phones previous to that. So you can't use the accessories you buy for the phone because it doesn't work. You got to buy a totally different power cord. Now, I had power cords for cigarette lighters in all my cars. I had power cords for all of the plugs in wherever I was sitting in the house so I could plug my phone in. Well, those phones are outdated. So Sprint would not give me the coverage I wanted in my house. They sent me a repeater that I had to put in the window so that my phone would talk to the repeater, which would talk to the tower and back again, okay? Because I didn't have any signal. And they said, well, you had 30 days to return the phone. I said, but I didn't get to California for 60. I didn't get there for 60 days. I got to be able to test the phone in California. So the long and the short of it was, there was a couple of things that happened, and they were willing to, the guy in someplace in Texas, Overlook, Texas is where Sprint was, they begged me not to cancel my contracts, because I had 3 contracts. They begged me not to cancel them. And he said to me, there's a Chinese investor who's going to come in with us, and it's going to all get straightened out. Okay. We're going to get all this other stuff. Stay with us, and I'll tell you what, I'll let you go month to month rather than having a 2-year contract. Month to month. I said, fine. So I waited. Nothing happened. So now I call up. I said, look, I want to cancel my account. And there was $132 on the account. I said, I'm not paying. I said, I have not been getting what I pay for. And they're fighting me on the phone. And I said, not only that, I want you to buy my phone back, because my phone is proprietary to Sprint. I can't take it to Verizon. You can't do it. The plugs and everything that I have are Verizon. I can't take it, or Sprint, I can't take it to Verizon. So give me back all of the money that I spent for the equipment for my Ferrari. I said, because when you tell somebody you have unlimited internet, that means as fast as my phone is capable of talking, that's what I'm going to get. That's unlimited. But when you reduce me down to I can only get X amount of data per minute, you're restricting me, and I'm not getting unlimited data because I'm leaving data on the table. Cox Cable.
Fast forward.
Cox Cable. We're in 2021. Oh, well, hold on. I threatened to sue Sprint back in 2006, 2007. I threatened to sue them. And they said to me, oh, Mr. Peruta, you can't sue us. I said, why? It says, because when you came to us you signed our customer agreement that all disputes must be settled by arbitration. And that arbitration had to take place in Texas, where they're located. So
I wonder how many of those arbitrations they have a year.
So I said, okay, that's your position, that all disputes have to be resolved by arbitration.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually $132 showed up on my credit report as owing to Sprint, delinquent. I called up the credit bureaus. I said, look, if they walk in your door with $132 owed by Ed Peruta and an arbitration award saying that I owe it, put it on my credit report. I'll pay it. But I have to have an opportunity to say to a disinterested third party, this is what happened. Fast forward, 2021.
You know what the companies have done too is they take every complaint, your complaint, other people's complaint, and then they incorporate them into a service agreement to make sure that you can no longer make that complaint because it makes you agree not to make that complaint, or that they're not responsible for whatever you're complaining of. So we get to a point that we're at now where you can't complain about anything and you can't sue for anything.
Well, so now I'm on the phone and I'm arguing with Cox Cable. Now, in mid-October of 2020, I had the fortunate opportunity to learn about Net Zero, which is a fiber optic internet service where I could buy 1 gig up, 1 gig down. That's 1,000 up and 1,000 down. Not 300 down and 30 up. No. 1,000 down and 1,000 up. And there's a word when it's equal, okay? And once I got fiber optic in this studio, I didn't need Cox internet anymore. And I had 2 modems, not 1. I had 2. News Now Houston and News Now San Diego would go out on 1 modem, and then Summary Judgment and something else, Facebook would go out on another modem, so that the modems didn't get choked up with use because they only gave you 30 up. Ever since we went to fiber optic, we've had no problems getting a signal out to multiple YouTube sites. So, they kept billing me. When you call up a cable company and you say, cancel my account, that's everything. When you call up Verizon and you say, because I went to a phone company called Visible, and they're advertising now. Visible. You may have to buy a phone from them that works with their system, but with Visible, I pay $35 a month for this phone and $35 a month for my wife's phone, and that's $70 a month, unlimited internet, unlimited data, unlimited hotspot usage, everything's unlimited, no taxes, fees, and everything else. A flat $45 a month, or 30, whatever. Done. So I call up Verizon and I say, cancel my account. They canceled 2 active phones, the lines that the phones were on, but I had 4 phone lines, 4 phone accounts, because I was told when I tried to reduce my cost, I wanted to get rid of the 2 phone numbers that I don't use. And they said, oh, it's cheaper for you to have 4 phones than it is to have 2 phones. So you got to keep those extra 2 numbers to keep your bill down low. Really, no problem. But when I called up and I said, cancel my account, I didn't say cancel 2 phone numbers. I didn't say cancel a phone number. I said cancel my account. And they kept fucking billing. And I didn't realize it because I'm on direct pay out of my checking account. You know, they get paid. And and finally somebody says to me, Ed, why are we still paying Verizon? I said, what?
Or Cox?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Here's the long and the short of it. And I'm going to go to the one with Cox particularly. I said, ma'am, here's what I know. I know that if I was given the chance, I would spend tens of thousands to sue you people for bait and switch, for lying your ass off to get us in the door and then feeing us to death. A home security system that they tell you it doesn't cost anything, and then all of a sudden you look at the bill and you say, what's this? Oh, that's your home security system, $8. No, I didn't ask for that. I didn't want that. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Did you want to finish something
I'm
up?
gonna wrap it up now. I
Okay.
said, ma'am, I would spend, because I would, and I have the ability to spend big bucks to sue these assholes for what they did to me. And I know that you're going to come back and you're going to say to me, haha, Mr. Peruta, you can't sue us. Because you have to use arbitration. She said, it came up about a year ago. Now we print it in the bill. You are subject to our service agreement. And our service agreement says that all disputes shall be solved by arbitration. And I said,
the only reason they do that, I'm sure, is because of a court case that ordered them to do it out of
right.
fairness.
And so what happened was this. She says to me, she says, oh, you're aware of that. I said, oh yeah, I'm aware of it. I said, but here's the whole thing. You say that I owe you X amount of dollars. I say I don't. So I said, I want you to type into your customer service notes exactly what I say and put quotation marks around it. I am bound by the Cox Service Agreement. All disputes shall be settled by arbitration. Do not report any delinquencies to any credit bureau unless you have a valid arbitration award awarding you the money for me to pay the money. Because if you get an arbitration award, I'll pay it in a heartbeat. But you see, I know I'm not going to lose. So if all disputes have to get settled by arbitration, take me to arbitration.
So let me be the devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
I know someone that when they go for medical care or treatment or they're hospitalized and need a procedure done, where they give you a pad and you sign your electronic signature to the waivers and everything, and this person asks for the information in paper, reviews it, changes things he doesn't agree with, and they don't know how to handle that.
This is a true story.
Absolutely. He's a good friend of ours. Now, absolutely.
Is it who I think it is?
It is. So I'm going to ask you, did you go to the Cox.com About Us Policies Customer Service Agreement and read that before you ordered the services from
I did
Cox?
not.
You did not.
I did not.
And that's where they get people.
I did not. But I do know that the verbiage that they've put out on their bill to me is that all disputes will be settled through arbitration.
So let me tell you what you would have learned if you actually went and read the residential customer service agreement, which it's online. If it were printed out, I think it would be 20 pages long. I can't tell. So it says, we advise you to read this agreement. This is in bold capital letters. Carefully, including the addendums found at the end of this agreement, applicable to the individual services. All of these terms affect your legal rights by, among other things, limiting Cox liability and requiring mandatory arbitration of disputes.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Limiting Cox liability and requiring mandatory arbitration of disputes. Is my owing money to Cox and not paying it a dispute?
Yes. You may opt out of this arbitration provision by following the procedure described in Section 4. Yep. I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
I'm sure there's a court case that required it, though, and they didn't do it willingly. So let's go to Section 4.
Oh, class action.
And I can tell you, if Cox is doing this, this is due to a court case, so other companies are doing it as well. Yep. It's not Cox being favorable to the customer. So, It says if you follow the procedures set forth, and again, it's in capital bold letters.
It is.
You have the right to opt out of this dispute resolution provision, except jury trial waiver. So you have to waive the jury trial. I guess there hasn't been a case about that.
And you have to opt out within 30 days of going in.
You have to opt out within 30 days of the effective date of this agreement. So I don't know. I mean, if you went to court about this, they would always say, did you read the service agreement?
No.
No, people don't.
I agree. Settled by arbitration. I'm in full agreement. Settled by arbitration. But now listen to what I'm going to say to you. Because I forgot about this one. On January 6, 2020, consulting cardiologists, Connecticut heart physicians, put $90 of medical bills, $45 and $45, $90 worth of medical bills into a collection. And it showed up on my credit report. You owe $90. And the little note, clean up your delinquency and you'll improve your credit score. I don't owe the money. But it was, you owe the money, you owe the money, you owe the money. And I kept telling them, I said, I don't owe this money. And there's a guy named Kevin at Atlantic Collections in East Lyme, Connecticut, who I called him up and I said, first I talked to a woman. I said, yeah, could you pull up my account, please? My credit account. Mr. Peruta, you don't have a credit account. I said, no, the $90 that I'm supposed to owe. Because I'm looking at my credit report online, okay? Credit Karma. And I see it. And she goes, well, you don't have it. I said, well, what are you talking about? Oh. Because I've been telling everybody for a year, the physician's office, the medical billing service, the credit, everybody. I said, I don't owe this money. She said, now this was the 17th of February. She says, oh, they called us up, they notified us that that money was supposed to be billed to the VA, not to you. I said, oh. I said, when did that happen? She goes, yesterday. Yesterday. So I said, okay, when does it come off my credit? Is it off my credit? Oh, no. It stays on your credit report. We report all of our information to the credit agencies on the 15th of the month, which means that from the 16th of February to the 15th of March, the Ides of March, the 15th of March, my name is going to be, my credit is going to be marred by a reference that stays there for 30. Now I talk to the boss. I'm talking to a supervisor. And yeah, I tend to get into a screaming match on the phone. And I'm sitting there saying, yeah, I can be kind of crude on the phone.
Well, don't be now.
I'm not going to be crude now. But I'm saying to him, you don't understand. You have taken information that was unverified, inaccurate, and just simply threw it on my credit report, okay? And you want me to pay you so you get a piece of it, okay? And I've been telling you this for over a year. I said, now, I'm telling you right now, I want that off my fucking credit report today. You pick up the phone and you call up Experian, Equifax, and the rest of them, and you tell them, we got a problem up here with a guy named Peruta, and all you got to do is Google his name, and he's going to come after us like a snowball rolling down a hill. You know, just please get his fucking name clear. You know something? It's not the 15th of March, is it?
No.
It's gone. Off my credit report. And my credit score went up by 44 points. That means that my credit score was reduced by 44 points because I am alleged to have owed $90 in delinquent accounts.
And you know what the sad part of this story is? is that you're talking about, $90, this or that. The same principle applies in medical care, in legal services, in education. People who aggressively argue for their own interest are the ones that get attention. Somebody else who did not have the wherewithal, for whatever reason, to continue arguing and demanding that it be taken off right away, would have had that on till March 15th. There are people that advocate for themselves in medical situations where if they didn't, nobody would notice certain things or treat them for certain things. Education, schools pay attention more to kids whose parents are on top of things and watching out for things. And I'm not sure what you actually ever do about that.
Next week, I am prepared to come on the show and write you a check.
Mm-hmm.
When I went after the chicken tax in Connecticut, everybody thought I was crazy.
Well,
suing over 49 cents.
Let me tell you about this.
And we found $1.5 million in improperly collected sales tax. What I'm saying to you is, I'll write you a check, and I want you to take Atlantic Collections and Connecticut whoever the hell they are, either to small claims court or to court, and go like this. You had no right to put unverified information under my account showing a delinquency. Because not only does the lower score affect me, but the mere fact that there's something in collections affects me. Okay? I wondered, why am I being denied credit sometimes? And it's that right there. Okay? Now, all I'm saying, EKG to read it, $45. But how'd you know where to send the bill?
So what's that department or national health care organization in Britain called, Great Britain, the NHS,
National Health
right?
Service.
National
NHS.
Health Service.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're advocating for something like that. Then people don't have to worry when they're coming out about their bill.
Well, listen, we got 4 minutes left. You got anything to add?
I don't. I just I think it may be interesting for us to go over this Cox agreement at some point.
Well, okay, but
I think the next time,
no.
The next time we want to buy some service or whatever, let's read the service agreement together before we make the purchase.
But let me leave it with this. You ready? No credit reporting agency, should be able to put an entry against a negative entry on your name unless they have in writing a court decision, a small case, small claims decision, or a flat out court decision.
So you want it to work like the criminal justice system? You're innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah. Or you didn't even have probable cause. You said, well, you went to the hospital, you must have had a bill for something. No. It's up to you to make sure that you're going to put the right information under my name. You control the insurance rates somebody may get, whether they get a rental agreement or not, whether they're allowed to rent, insurance on the car. All of this shit comes down to people look at your credit score. I've actually said to people, that if you're applying for a loan, they'll say to you, well, you need to pay off this $132 to Sprint before we can give you the loan.
Yeah, that sounds like something Clark Howard would say.
And I go, fine, cancel it. I don't need your money. And I start to walk out. Now they realize the commissions they're losing. Okay? And I said, look, you're not going to intimidate me into paying this bill. And then the worst part about it is this, is as soon as I apply for credit, get denied credit because of that $90, then Sprint starts calling saying, yeah, you're going to pay us? They know that I got denied.
I see. Yep.
So I think that between one of them, Experian and Cox, when somebody owes money to Cox and they get denied credit, they tell Cox, and then Cox or somebody calls you up and says, oh yeah, you want to pay it now? In other words, you're fucked unless you pay us.
And on that note, we will see you next week.
Really?
Thanks for joining us.
Okay.
Bye.